All right, Steve Overmyer here alongside co-host of Fantasy BFFs on the Fantasy Sports Network, and you can find his fantasy baseball writing at patreon.com. Frank Stamfel, good to have you in studio again, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Happy to be here.
Well, we're going to be starting things off with streamers, and if you're playing head-to-head baseball leagues, you're always looking for the one-week pitcher rentals. So let's look at those pitchers that you should be streaming this next week, starting on Monday. And I'm going to start with a guy who actually has a Tuesday start. And when you look at his matchup, the Cubs, the Brewers, it doesn't sound like Joe Musgrove is the guy you want to go with, but look at what this guy has done recently. As a matter of fact, he's just coming off of a victory over the Houston Astros, a powerful Houston Astros offense. He scattered 9 hits and 0 walks. He has corrected the consistency issue that he has faced. His ERA is a little higher than you like to see. You don't like to see a 4.27 ERA, but his FIP is 3.29, meaning that there should be a regression to the mean. Plus, he's only owned in 40% of the leagues out there right now. In the 3 of his last 4 starts, he's issued a quality start as well. You want to see a consistent pitcher. Look, when you're going to be going out there and you're going to be getting a guy that's going to be a streamer, you want him to give you wins, and you hope that he's not going to hurt your ERA and whip too much and give you a few strikeouts. The key here is that he's not letting the ball out of the ballpark. He's only allowed 8 home runs in 90 innings this year. He seems to me like he would be a perfect guy to add for a 2-start this week.
Yeah, and I love Joe Musgrove as well, Steve. You hit it on the head. There is some regression coming, some positive regression coming for Joe Musgrove. He's been a little bit unlucky. He's had a few really big blow-up starts here and there that have inflated the ERA.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you see the surface ERA at 4.29, but you see some of the ERA indicators that say that he actually has been a little bit unlucky so far this year. Doesn't walk a lot of guys. Doesn't strike out as many as you would like either. But again, you mentioned it. Doesn't give up a lot of home runs. The Milwaukee Brewers are a little bit colder recently as well. I get behind this one. Joe Musgrove was a big favorite of the fantasy baseball industry coming into the season.
Yeah, and maybe he's starting to fill in those expectations, or at least arrive at those expectations. All right, the streamer you like this week, Logan Allen. What do you like about him?
What I like about him is that he gets a lot of ground balls, Steve. That's the first thing that stands out to me. 55.9% ground ball rate. This guy has a wipeout changeup as well. One of the top pitching prospects in the Padres organization. You know, he's got a 1.38 ERA on the season. He's made 2 starts so far, 13 innings pitched. He's only allowed 2 earned runs, and those 2 starts came against the Orioles, which, all right, maybe not the strongest team, but against the Brewers, which is a better lineup as well. And then next week, he's got some pretty good matchups. Look, he's going up against the San Francisco Giants, and I love that start because against left-handed pitching this year, well, really against all pitching, I mean, their lineup has been abysmal. I mean, they got a 611 team OPS against left-handed pitching so far this year, Steve. So I think that he can really dominate the Giants in that start. Second start is against the Dodgers, which you don't love, but if he can just be adequate in that start against the Dodgers, I think he's really going to dominate the Giants, and he's going to help you out next week a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe if he has such a great game against the Giants, you know, it might be able to carry over against the the Dodgers. That's what you're looking for with streamers. It's not just their performance; it's about who they're going to be matching up against. And the Giants would be a team you want to head up against as well. What you said was really important. He's had 2 career starts. The thing is, what he's doing at the major league level is actually better than what he's done at the AAA level. His K per 9 is down. Like you said, his ground ball percentage is way up. So at what point do you think that a guy is going to get adjusted to when Major League Baseball players are going to adjust to a guy that's come up?
Well, normally I'll look at, you know, the second time a team sees him, you know, once there's more film that comes out. There's only 2 starts.
So we're in the safe zone right now,
Logan. I think we're in the safe zone.
You can ride him as long as possible. But, you know, one other thing we want to bring up with streamers is sometimes it's okay to say no. Sometimes it's all right. If you look at the matchups this week and you're diving down into those guys that are owned at 9% or 3% or 1% just because they have a great matchup, it's okay to say I'm passing on streamers this week.
There's a reason why these guys are free agents in your fantasy baseball league, Steve. I mean, you know, for the most part, a lot of them haven't performed well or they're unknowns. And I think when it comes to Logan Allen, he's more of an unknown right now. People might not have picked up that his first 2 starts have gone pretty well. And he was a higher ranked prospect in the Padres organization. Wasn't performing well at AAA like you mentioned, but normally if there's a pitcher who doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, I like for that pitcher to get a lot of ground balls because at least you could wiggle out of trouble. You can get some double plays here and there, and that's what I like about Logan Allen.
That's a look at the streamers that you should be targeting. But what about the hot and the cold players out there? Right now, there are some hot players that you definitely want to add. Players that you want to add that are at maybe, less than for 50% of the leagues nationwide. And the guy that I would be targeting right now is Chris Taylor. And I can't believe that this guy is only owned in 49% of the leagues, because over the last 2 weeks, Chris Taylor has been lights out. 5th in Major League Baseball in RBI over the last 2 weeks. His OBP over the past 2 weeks is 481. He's thrown in 3 stolen bases as well. Here's what I like about him. Over these past 2 weeks, his OPS is actually at 880, and I get it. Corey Seager is going to be coming back after the All-Star break, and it could be tough for him to find some spots, especially since, Max Muncy is over at second base. But that's the best part about Chris Taylor, is the fact that he's eligible at 3 different spots: shortstop, second base, and outfield. And that flexibility allows them to kind of move him around the Dodgers lineup a little bit, just as long as he gets into the lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair concern, too. Look, I love Chris Taylor for the short term as well. Once Corey Seager is back, is Chris Taylor going to get every day at-bats? There are question marks there. I mean, you could slot him in the outfield, and that's why he's so valuable for fantasy and for real-life baseball purposes, is because of that versatility, as you mentioned. He could play corner outfield positions. He could play, second base. He could play shortstop, give someone a day off. You can find ways to work him in. And I'll go one step further. You mentioned the past 2 weeks, Steve. It's really the past 2 months for Chris Taylor, if you look at it. Got off to a terrible start in the month of April. He was hitting under 200. Since May on, he's been hitting over 300. A serious power-speed combination here as well. The underlying numbers, the batted ball numbers are there for him. He's hitting the ball harder, hitting the ball in the air, and it's really cheap exposure to one of the best lineups in baseball in the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I think that the entire Dodgers offense is hitting over 300 in the past 2 months. Who's the hot guy that you want to look at? Yonny Chirinos?
Yeah, Yonny Chirinos. I think he's not getting the respect that he deserves because he was a follower for the Tampa Bay Rays, which means that he had a relief pitcher open the game for him. And I think that people might not have picked up on the fact that he's actually starting games now. So he's giving you quality starts. Over his last 5 starts, a 2.72 ERA, 3.42 xFIP, a 47% ground ball rate, and an 18.8% K- walk percentage. The swinging strike rate is there for him as well. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. We looked this up before, Steve. A 0.97 whip on the season. Yonny Chirinos, a lot of people are not realizing that he's been really great for a large majority, but specifically over the past 5 starts, he's been even better.
And because of that, his ranking right now in baseball, as far as fantasy baseball, is number 50. So you have to wonder, is he really the 50th best player in baseball right now? But the thing is, he's 79% owned in the leagues, or 76% owned, I guess, nationwide. So to get this guy, you're going to have to make a trade for him. The question is, how much do you give up to go and get Yonny? All right, so I'm going to throw a couple of names out there, and you tell me whether or not you would trade this guy to go and get Yonny. Shane Green and his 21 saves.
That is a trade that I would make because as the trade deadline is approaching here, Steve, we've heard Shane Green's name come up, and there's a possibility he gets moved to a team where he's not even the closer anymore, and I think there's some regression coming for him as well. Look, he's got a sub-1 ERA, sub-1 whip. Shane Green has never been this great of a pitcher. I understand the 21 saves have been great, but that's in the past. You've already got those on your team. We're looking towards the future. If you could trade away Shane Green and get a potential top 30 starting pitcher rest of season in Yonny Chirinos, seems like a valuable asset.
Would you trade away Gleyber Torres to get?
Nah, I can't do that, Steve.
That's one too much.
I can't do Gleyber Torres.
All right.
I play in a league where Gleyber Torres was actually traded away for Chris Sale. I mean, that's how Gleyber Torres is being valued right now. Yeah. He's being valued as, a top 5 middle infielder right now because of the power that he provides, the runs scored. 291 batting average on the season as well for Gleyber Torres. I mean, he's, for people who might have been skeptical last year of Gleyber Torres, I mean, he's only getting better every single year. So that's probably one that I wouldn't make, but it's Gleyber Torres, man. He's been pretty good.
All right, so those are the guys that are trending up, but there are plenty of players that are trending down. I know that every player has a bit of a cold spell, and we start things off with a guy who's feeling it right now, feeling a little cold right now, JT Realmuto.
Yeah, JT Realmuto, a lot of people had him pegged as the #1 catcher in fantasy baseball heading into the season because he was moving away from that huge ballpark in Miami, and he's going over to Citizens Bank Park to play in Philadelphia in a really, really good lineup, and it just hasn't worked out. A lot of people just figured that, he would just go on the same trajectory as Christian Yelich once Christian Yelich got out of Marlins Park and went over to a good hitter's ballpark in Miller Park. He won the MVP. So a lot of people thought that JT Realmuto could be in line for something like that. But this year, 262 batting average, a 319 OBP. He's actually performing worse statistically this season than he was last year with the Marlins. And it doesn't really make sense because if you look at the underlying batted ball numbers, Steve, career high 43% hard contact rate, career high 90.6 mile per hour average exit velocity. He should be performing better than he is. His expected batting average and expected slugging percentage are actually much higher than his surface numbers right now. So I actually think while he's a cold player, he's someone that I would want to buy low on right now.
The guy that I think is cold and you want to get rid of right now is going to be Will Myers, which amazingly he's still owned in 60% of the leagues nationwide. He's hitting .219 with 97 strikeouts this year, which is the most in baseball. Worse yet for Will Myers is that he's getting benched. He's got injury concerns, have been his label in the past, but why you would always keep him in your lineup was because he could be a 20-plus home run guy. He's not that guy anymore. And Will Myers, would you be okay, not trading away, but would you be okay just absolutely cutting Will Myers?
In shallower leagues, I could see it 10, maybe 12-team leagues. Look, if you play in roto leagues, it's his power-speed combination that's so enticing, that ability, or what we would project to be, that ability to go 20-20, 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. But I don't know that that's going to happen this year, Steve, because the playing time concerns, as you mentioned, Franmil Reyes has stepped up for this team. Right. Hunter Renfroe hitting a ton of home runs this year as well. Manuel Margot has played much better for this team. So it seems like there's not a spot for Will Myers right now, and I think that inconsistent playing time has really messed with his production so far this year. He's not going to get playing time at first base. Eric Hosmer has been awesome so far this year for the Padres too. So it just seems like there's too many mouths to feed right now in San Diego. He's not giving you the playing time, and even when he plays, he's striking out a ton too. So I think in shallower leagues, that is a move you can make.
Great info, Frank. Thank you so much for all of your insights. We combine analytical research with fantasy sports. This is Fanalysis. For Frank Stanfill, I'm Steve Overmyer. Take care.